So now what? You've probably asked yourself that question 100 times because for decades you've been doing what you have to. And now you're wondering, have I actually done enough to do what I want to do? Would you like some help? That's why we're here, to take you from I have to wow, I really get to. I'm Brad Johansen with Omega Wealth Private Capital, and this is Wise Money. Thanks so much for being with us on Wise Money. Brad Johansen with the President and CEO of Omega Wealth Private Capital, Joe Wilson III, and my buddy.
My friend.
Every day
here we are
in the office, this is what we're doing. And we talk about it all the time, how many people come into the office who already have an advisor. Many of you watching this right now already have an advisor.
Well, that's normal. I mean, people save. And when they save, they need to get advice. And that is a very normal thing for most folks. Very common. We have some amazing advisors in this town. I think what separates us and why we say we are different by design is we really specialize in helping those folks right before that retirement scenario when they're getting ready to flip the switch and through retirement. We truly are distribution specialists where we really focus on that complete ending plan, if you will, of I've saved all this, I'm getting ready to retire, and now what do I need to do? Okay,
if we hit on that, let's talk about the three phases of retirement.
Yeah, great.
As to what we're doing and why you may be dealing with an advisor who is not saying some of the things that we're saying to you on this program. And I know a lot of you have been watching for a long time, hesitating to call. Why don't you do it right now, 844-657-1072, and just set up a retirement readiness review. We want to go through all of this for you. So if we're looking at three phases of retirement, we usually start with most people who you may be dealing with and have been dealing with for a long time are accumulation advisors.
Think about it. You've been working for 20, 30, maybe 40 years, and you've been every 2 weeks getting a paycheck and probably saving inside of a 401k or an IRA. Maybe hopefully there's some Roth in there. Maybe you're a government worker, 457, or a teacher like your beloved bride,
yes,
Colleen, up there in the Mason School District, where you're putting part of your money aside to take it out. That is the accumulation phase. What's so important is understanding how you invest in those years has to be very different than when your distribution phase begins, because the volatility in the market, where you go to get money out and its tax ramifications, all of that matters, because if you mess up and take out of the wrong account, you could be costing yourself more. And the impact isn't just today, it's 20 and 30 years down the road in retirement where that can have a major effect. So phase one is accumulation. How do you save it? How do you grow it? You stay at it. Every 2 weeks, you're putting money in there. Maybe you have an investment account outside of that. You're saving money. Why? Because one day you want to cross over that retirement threshold and say, I'm done. That's when we start to see the shifting of the phases. So accumulation, then you go into asset preservation. Think about this. Could you imagine retiring right at the beginning of 2022?
Oof.
1999, markets were at an all-time high, and then we saw a dip. We saw a dip in 2001, and there's another dip in 2002.
Which leads you to your favorite saying, if you do the right thing
at the wrong time,
it ends up being the wrong thing.
Yeah, and all you did is maybe you were debt-free in that scenario, and you'd saved up a great amount of money, and what did you do? You just retired at the wrong time. You can't control what the market does in the years that you're getting ready to retire or right after you retire. What you can do is understand this phase of retirement, where you start hedging some of your risk. Why? Because the number one thing you have to have in retirement is what? Income. And so if you're subject to the market dropping 20, 30% right when you're getting ready to go into retirement, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to have to start taking out less. Oh, nay. No one wants a pay cut, especially when you're starting out retirement. Or two, you're going to have to delay and go back to that job for another year or two until you can get that back. It doesn't have to be that way. That's why you have to have phase number two.
All right, let me go back to phase number one.
Okay.
In accumulation. If I'm entering a spot where I've done this accumulation and the question becomes, do I have to stop accumulating? If I leave this phase and I'm moving into another phase where I have to protect my assets, Can I still continue the accumulation phase?
Our clients sure don't. No, absolutely not. Because once you identify where you're going to get your income and you set up an income engine and you've hedged against some market risk and maybe healthcare risk that could come down the line in future years of retirement, what does that leave? That should leave another big part of money to do what? Continue to grow.
Yeah.
Now, we want to make sure it's done efficiently and effectively and cost effectively. My Lord, some of these fees we're seeing people paying are just ridiculous inside their retirement accounts. But time in the market is undefeated, and we are huge fans of market money. That's why we do what we do. I started in the wirehouses. What I don't like is when everyone is just hoping that the sunshine rays will stay out there and storms won't come. Well, what if they do? And that's what we're talking about. How do you hedge that risk?
Okay, so that continues into the asset preservation. When we say, you hear asset preservation and you say, I'm going to sit back and wait and hope that this is going to be okay. That's not really asset preservation. Give me an idea what there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. One is, how do we set up assets that are defensive in a way that when the market does, sometimes what the market does, in 73, 74, two drastic years, down over 40%. We talked about it earlier, 2000, 2001, 2002, almost a 43% decline over 3 years. What a long stretch that was for modern retirees that just walked out of the workplace having to go through that. Great financial crisis. There are more good years than bad years. The challenge is if those bad years hit right before retirement or right after retirement, it has such a huge effect. So what do? We hedge some of that risk. That's what we do today. But we also set aside some money to hedge future risk. And what would that be? Well, healthcare.
Yeah.
It's a major, major risk down the road. When you look at how much money it costs to stay in a private nursing home or just in-home healthcare, cognitive declines, we see more and more and more of this. This is an area that a lot of folks come to us and say, man, I'm worried about this. Well, let's plan for that. What I don't like is long-term care insurance. I despise it because it's expensive. The rates go through the roof. And a lot of times, if you don't use it, you've lost that money.
Because we have a lot of people coming into the office going, should I be getting long-term health care insurance?
And what you can have that option. Here's the challenge. We're not going to sell it because I don't think it's right for you. And I don't think it's right for everyone. I do think there are options that are available now that have a dual purpose. If you need the health care, we've hedged that risk and have access to get that. But we've also still have the money that if you don't need it, you can still take it and take the trips and the vacations and do with it what you want later in the years of retirement. And we could set that up and worry about that later, and allows us to hedge that risk.
Third phase?
Third phase, this is the phase that so many folks just kind of forget about, and it's distribution. I mean, you've saved all this money to do what? Retire. And to retire, you need income. When you don't have that job at your workplace anymore, where are you going to get your income? It's going to be probably from some Social Security. Maybe you have a little bit of a pension, maybe not. The rest is in the money that you saved. That's why you have to earmark, and what we like to say is create an income engine. A place to get income regardless if the market is up or down, and one that is sustainable to and through all your years of retirement. If we can earmark capital to do that, earmark capital to hedge against healthcare risk, all the rest of the money now can be put back into that accumulation mode of growing, keep doing what it needs to do. That could fund trips to Europe, Africa, whatever you want it to do.
We're talking about the 3 phases of retirement, and there's so much more to go into in all of these things. But what we're trying to get you to understand is that none of this works without a plan.
Well, that's the truth.
And we understand that this isn't something you've done before. Nobody's taught you how to do it. Maybe you've been doing a lot of this accumulation phase by yourself, and it's gone pretty well. But doing the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. And understanding perspective, and people who have done this with hundreds, thousands of clients who are trying to figure out the same thing with a different plan that's specific to them. That's what we want to do for you. 844-657-1072. A retirement readiness review that is complimentary. And I said it at the top of the program. You may already have an advisor. Is it worth a second opinion for free? How about coming in and joining us? And I had somebody come in last week and say, I didn't realize that you were actually going to be in the office, Brad. I thought you were just on TV. I'm all in. We're all in Omega Wealth Private Capital, because that's what we want to do for you, is finish your story in the best way possible. Call us now. Let's set up an appointment. Let's meet. Let's work on that phase of retirement of distribution that takes you into and through retirement. 844-657-1072. So much more to talk about, including maybe a TV dinner or two.
This is Wise Money in 60. My name is Cynthia DeFazio with Joe Wilson. Target date funds are like a TV dinner.
Oh my
Joe?
goodness, target date funds. They're the easy button. Think about this. You put money in and it's supposed to get a little bit more conservative, adds more bonds as you get closer to retirement, gets more aggressive when you're younger. Here's the challenge. Just like a TV dinner, they're quick, they're easy, but they're loaded with sodium and salt, things you probably shouldn't eat every day, otherwise you kind of end up a little pleasantly plump. Same thing with a target date fund. It's the easy button, but you sure won't want to eat every meal like that for the rest of your life. And that's why you have to be careful with what you're ordering when it comes to retirement savings.
That was Wise Money in 60. And folks at home, that's why you have to lay off the Salisbury steak.
You've probably heard the term Roth conversions. What are they? How can they benefit you? Well, remember playing kick the can as a kid? You may still be playing if you have money in tax-deferred accounts like 401ks, 403bs that you and your family have just been kicking down the road for years saying, this can wait. Well, is kicking the can still in your best interest? Do you realize you have a partner in those accounts and the government is not a generous partner? With the highest national debt we have ever seen, taxes aren't likely to decrease, and you've been putting legislative risk against your retirement goals with a giant tax bullseye on your back. Roth conversions are simply moving your money out of those tax-deferred accounts, paying on them during the third lowest tax bracket in history, which only lasts till the end of 2025. That conversion allows your hard-earned money to grow tax-free for the rest of your life. Kick the can just isn't nearly as fun when the government plays with you. Let's take the bullseye off your back. Call now. Welcome back to Wise Money. Brad Johansson with Joe Wilson III as we talk about the phases of retirement. That Roth conversion is something that a lot of people are coming into because for a lot of people, that's a new thing. It hasn't been talked about before. And the understanding of taxes, which is probably what we should dive into, including the fears that we're dealing with. But the fears of taxes and understanding that it's not what you have, it's what you get to keep, and understanding the tax laws right now. Tell me why, because we come out of this, why Roth conversions are so important. Not that we're telling everybody to come in, let's convert all your money now so it's tax-free, but because it doesn't work that way.
It has to be individual because there are some things around this that you need to be aware of. What we hate is lazy money. You know, years ago when interest rates were at 0.25, like that's lazy money. Why don't we get some of that to work and earn some things? Right now, there's an opportunity in the current tax window where maybe we take a little bit of extra. If we look at your tax returns and say, hey, here's what you're making, you can actually convert X amount of dollars and still stay in that same tax bracket. Let's do some conversion and get rid of Uncle Sam and that partner today in the third lowest tax brackets in history. I mean, go back and look at 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s. Think of those years, 3 decades. The lowest marginal tax bracket
70?
was substantial, almost 70%. Never fell below. We're sitting today under 40. Regardless of legislative risk and who's in office or who's not, or who's on the Hill, the fact of the matter is we're $35 trillion in debt. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all underfunded, and there's $38 trillion in retirement accounts that have yet to be taxed. That is a bullseye. Why don't we look and saying, hey, what if we convert 20,000, 50,000, 40,000? Yes, you have to pay that rate right now. But now you've disinherited that partner, and all that money can grow, not just for you and your spouse, but maybe onto your kids tax-free. It is a huge opportunity. No one in this industry is talking about it. It drives me crazy because you can only spend after-tax dollars. So how do you even have an idea of what's my tax debt? And this is something that's shocking. I'm going to have them put it up on the screen. Wise tax bill. Or take out your phone, take a picture of that QR code to take you to a landing page. Some basic information, put in there what you have in an IRA, a 401k, so one of your retirement accounts, and get an idea, oh my goodness, this might be my hidden tax debt. When you see that, you're going to be alarmed. I know you were like, holy smokes, when you saw it.
The situation, and it's exactly what you said. Why don't we do some of it right now? I don't want to do it right now. I'm meeting with somebody next week who were coming into the office and said straight out to me, Brad, I will tell you, when I get scared, I do nothing. And it's the worst thing you can possibly do.
Well, here's why. A lot of times it's so unknown and it's uncertain. And so when there is concern and I'm just not aware what's going on with the markets, what's going on with taxes, what's going on with inflation, let me just stay back and hover. I know that's it's fight or flight, right? You're protecting yourself, you're flying and hiding away from that. But this is the time to lean into it because the window of opportunity is changing. Judge Leonard Hand, a famous federal judge, said this: there are two tax systems out there right now in the United States, one for the informed and one for the uninformed. You've got an opportunity right now that if you go to that wisetaxbill.com, take a picture of that QR code, you're going to be informed. Now the question is, how do I fix it? And that's what we help folks understand. We walk them through that journey along with all their other issues when it comes to financial planning, because you can only spend after tax money. If you're not doing this, you are gambling big that over the next 25 and 30 years of retirement, that taxes will be lower. That's the issue that I think anyone's counting on.
Do you understand? We're not trying to sell you anything. What we're trying to do is tell you ignorance is no longer an excuse. This is an educational program, and it's what we do constantly with the workshops, with the radio show, with the television show, with the people who come in to say, did you realize this? wisetaxbill.com will send you to this, and when you get that and go, oh my, why don't you call the number, 844-657-1072, to set up a free retirement readiness review. Come in so that we can talk about a plan, because it's not about your greatest fear. They should be your greatest years. 844-657-1072. Be right back after this.
This is Wise Money in 60. I'm Cynthia DeFazio. This is Joe Wilson. Variable annuities, yuck.
Yuck indeed. Variable annuities are sold a lot of times in the wirehouses. The whole plan is to have guaranteed income. Here's the issue. They are loaded, Cynthia, with nasty fees. We are looking at variable annuities. We play a game called Call the Company. We're talking 3.5%, 3.75%, 4% a year. Guaranteeing income, but here's the thing. The value is not guaranteed. It can go down. So you're paying, we've seen people pay $50,000 to get $70,000 a year of income. It doesn't make sense. There's so many more efficient ways to get retirement guaranteed income versus a loaded down fee variable annuity. If you have a variable annuity, you know someone, yuck, get out of it.
Yuck. Ugh. And that's Wise Money in 60.
I love having Cynthia
on our Mrs. America has never said yuck in her life. It's kind of fun to hear.
It's a beautiful thing to have her on our
Cynthia,
program
we love you
all the time.
Death.
She is
You're
the best
awesome.
of the best. When we talk about annuities, that's one of the products. For a lot of you, that's a four-letter word. It used to be what it was, and it's because a lot of people were in variable annuities that caused problems.
Oh, yeah,
there are products right now, and annuities are one of them, but what we're trying to do is mind the gap. You will hear us talking about this in appointments all the time, in workshops, and everything that we do is minding the gap to understand how you can create an income engine that will mind that gap of what am I going to get from Social Security? Maybe it's a pension that you have. And how does that get me to the point of my necessities to my want-tos, and what's the gap so that we can close that with an income engine? And there are so many products, tools in the tools that we can use now to mind the gap.
Well, here's what I love, is that we can make it personalized. I mean, you can get an income engine from stock dividends. I love stock dividends. They're fabulous. Companies that have a history of paying, increasing the dividends, that's a wonderful way to create some income engine. Maybe it's bonds. When we're looking at what's going on right now, as interest rates have been high, people have been putting a lot of money in money market, high yield savings accounts and CDs. The challenge with that, as the Federal Reserve starts to cut rates, those rates will come down. In fact, it's already starting. And as they continue to look and forecast at how much they could lower rates, that could be significantly less money. So what goes up when the Fed is starting to lower rates? Well, maybe it's good old-fashioned bonds. It's hard for me to say that as a wirehouse guy because it's been years since that's worked. But in the 80s, look at the impact of properly structured bonds that can have on a portfolio. And they pay interest. That could be part of your income engine. But there are also certain types of annuities, and this is where I think we got to be cautious. One, they're not right for everybody, but there are no fee or very low fee income annuities that can help set up a segment of that income engine that maybe just allows you to put a little bit of the money in there to cover your gap. And you might need more with bonds and with stock dividends. It all matters upon the personal situation of the client. That's what we're talking about. But what we mentioned in that ad, a variable annuity, the challenge with the variable annuity is there's extremely high fees most of the time. The asset itself is not guaranteed by the carrier. It can go up and it can go down. Oh, nay, nay. We're doing an income engine. To get the income rider on that, the fees are so expensive, and that's the example we used in that show. You're talking about fees that are just almost 3.5%, 4%. It doesn't make sense, and that's like wearing really heavy shoes to go out to run a marathon. That dog ain't hunting.
You know the client that Louis and I had in who was really apprehensive about doing it because he had done it so long for himself, and we talked about annuities. Ooh, I don't like this idea.
Absolutely.
Until the explanation is, look, here's what you've done, and you're in a really, really good spot. Done well on his house, done well on his properties, done well on his work. He even has a little bit of a pension coming forward, and he says, I want this to be safe. When we talk about that, we talked about a zero-floor strategy that says, you know what, we're going to put you in this. And it won't get you the full amount of the market, but it will get you a great proportion of it. And yet, if the market drops through the floor, your floor is right here. You don't lose any money. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And you can do them very, very low cost. And I think that's the benefit that we have because we have the value of perspective and we have very large tool chest. It's not right for everyone, but what a tool when it comes into play. Listen, if it will do that and give me some of the up and none of the down, and I could put an income rider on that and protect my income going forward, and that covers my income gap and now allows the rest of my money to grow, I would invest in stop signs if it made sense for me. I don't care what it's called. I will tell you, I want to make sure I understand what the hidden fees are. And once we uncover that and disclose that, and we look at that and say, is this right, is this not? That makes the decision a lot easier. The problem is most folks that are coming in are just getting some variable annuity from a bank. It's a disaster.
Look, we're talking about the phases, the accumulation phase, the asset preservation phase, and now the distribution phases. We're trying to do it. It's a holistic plan that we're trying to put you in, and you're different than everybody else. So don't let the guy down the street or somebody at the water cooler tell you this is the way it's supposed to go.
The truth.
Come in and try and get a retirement readiness review. It costs you nothing. 844-657-1072. We got to take a quick break. Be right back after this. So what do you need most in retirement? Income. And what are you losing when you stop working? We want to create an income engine that lasts, that takes you into and through your retirement. And maybe you've been working with a broker who is saying, well, let's just stay in the market and risk it. How much are you willing to risk with an income that needs to take you into and through your retirement? Time in the market is your friend, but an income engine that takes you through your retirement until your last breath is what we're looking for. Let's put an income engine together that makes it work for you. Maybe to 10, 20, 30 years in retirement. Call us. Come in. Let's meet. Let's create an income engine that lasts. Which again goes back to minding the gap, and that's what we're trying to do is create an income engine so you don't have to worry about it. So every month, every year, you're going, is my retirement going to last? Let's put together a plan. That's what we're trying to do. A lot of you, as I said, may have a broker, may have an advisor that you've dealt with over the last years. Maybe you've had many of them who have done this, and they've done really good for you in accumulation.
Well, it's been some good accumulation years. It's been awesome.
So a lot of people can do that. So are they talking about asset preservation? Are they talking about distribution at this point? That's what we're doing to try and bring this holistic plan together.
You know, Grandpa Joe was a farmer. Joseph R. Wilson I. My other grandfather, 𝗧𝗍 was a rancher and had a farm and ranch down there. One of the things I learned from them, lessons from the farm, is, man, you got to make sure your crops are paying rent. And for them, they lived off the land. It was an income engine. They would grow corn, and they would harvest that corn. They'd take it to market. They would get income off of it. They would then take some of that income, and they would put it in the silo, and they would save it. And they would use that when hard times come. I remember my grandmother used to can fruit. We all loved the fresh fruit, but sometimes she'd set aside, said, no, we got to can some of this because what if
just in case.
And it went to the storm cellar, just in case the storms come. Why does it have to be that much different when it comes to retirement? I think Wall Street, we love to make this way more complicated than it is. It drives me nuts because truly, when you've worked your entire life and gotten income, when you retire, why should that income stop? Why should it be at the whims of, well, I hope it's a good year on the corn and it grows well, or what if a pestilence comes in, or what if the weather's bad? What do I do? That's not the way to live retirement. And I think we learned those just from Grandma and Grandpa, Joe, and my other grandparents.
Here, what do I do when I've gone out, and you know I've been on the street for a long time asking questions of a lot of people, and I do the same thing now in talking to people who are in this different phase, because the stories are more important. It's your story to try and close it the way that you want to close it. And the first thing that, if I were to ask you what you would have done differently at this point, what's the answer I almost always get first?
Started sooner.
I wish I would have started sooner.
Regardless of what they have.
I wish I would have started sooner. If I would have known this now or put this away now, I wish. And that's a lot of you who are watching the show, right? Who are saying, I'm not going to call now. Why is now so important?
Because the reality is you might think you're one way and you're not. There's so many folks that we've received phone calls off of this. In fact, you met with one recently that said, I'm not sure I have enough. And we started doing the numbers, and we looked at the income plan, and we looked and set up an income engine. We hedged longevity risk. We looked at their asset allocation and where they were growing, and did it all cohesively come together for their values and their vision? And guess what? It did. And we can come back and say, hey, here's some good news. You can retire right now. It's why you need a clear understanding, because if you think your retirement plan is just looking at a statement and understanding, well, this is what I have, we've got to convert that to income that'll last you to and through. Are you paying unnecessary fees? Do you have more risk than you really are comfortable with? If you turn on the TV and you're going, oh my goodness, the market's way down, and you're feeling nervous about that, or you get that statement one month and it's not what it used to be, and you're thinking, oh my word, do I have enough? That's probably a sign you probably need a second opinion. How do you do that? 844-657-1072. Take out your phone, take a picture of that QR code, fill it in online, set up a time. Maybe it's a 15-minute phone call or a Zoom, maybe an in-person meeting with our amazing fiduciary advisors that sit down and help you be and stay retirement ready. You get one shot at retirement. You deserve the understanding and to know exactly where you are and where you can have the retirement of your future. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.
From tax time bombs to Social Security insecurities, strategic investments that help clean up your junk drawer and keep your income engine running smoothly at Omega Wealth Private Capital. We're fiduciary, independent, holistic wealth advisors, and we're here to turn your have-tos into get-tos. So, would you like your retirement dreams to move from good to great? Give us a call. It's what we do, because we really want to. Thanks so much for joining us. Hope to see you in the office. Until then, I'm Brad Johansson. We'll see you next time on Wise Money.